Regarding a person's trustworthiness, they're willing to go out and take a risk in this environment. I think that says something about them. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of trustworthiness, but it has to be said because it is so essential. It is so essential. Something else I think about with a person in terms of trustworthiness is their self-knowledge. So, I'm always talking self-knowledge because I just think it's so important. We need it. We need to be able to judge our blind spots. We need to be able to look at ourselves critically so that we know when we're out of line. So people sort of bounce around from relationship to relationship and from job to job. And they have a basic unwillingness to sort of have empathy for others, the experience that others have of them. Self-knowledge allows a person to get along with others and to sort of learn the social rules of what it takes to be like a functioning person in this world. Because let's face it, it's not like it used to be with kids, like growing up, where people go and spend a bunch of time with other kids and they play these games, competitive games and sharing games and war, and people are going to have to learn on the fly for what's coming. But if a person is not like really socialized with their peers, they didn't do much in the way of teams and group play growing up, then they're not so privy to social rules. They're not accustomed to peers. And that is problematic because they are not going to want to facilitate cooperation. It's just nuts. It's nuts what people do in their personal relationships. The baseline for a relationship with trust is someone both sides working to create a common basis wherein disputes are resolved, fun is had, and people can default to cooperation. If there's a difficulty, you can cooperate your way through it. People who did not have a lot of friends growing up don't really get this. Gosh. They may even just be so used to their own family's rule set. Like, people who are sheltered socially, like they just stay in their family's rule set, and obviously most families are dysfunctional, and so they never get to contrast rule sets in their home environments, like that, those of their friends and of their own, and cousins and stuff like this, to sort of determine operative functionality, but also to garner some level of ethics out of it, because when someone's parents are like brutal to them and when yours aren't so much, or vice versa, you get pretty cued into that right away. So a person who has not spent a lot of time thinking about this is really wet behind the ears, really green. And my view on people like this is that they tend to just flame out really quickly when there's difficulties. People don't have a very good relationship with uncertainty. I think that's another thing to do with trustworthiness, is how well does a person tolerate uncertainty? I think you should be able to tolerate years of uncertainty. Sometimes friendships take 20 years to form. Sometimes there's a lot of chemistry and similarities and you're able to just go right away. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. And the uncertainty of not knowing, where am I at with this person, which oftentimes comes out of an ignorance, like a lack of empathy for their experience of you, which goes back to the self-knowledge thing. But a lot of times there's distance, people with similarities who meet each other over the internet, and maybe a distance relationship, and so it's hard to gauge where things are at. But a willingness to tolerate uncertainty over time, I think allows for trust to be built at whatever rate that it does. And that's very important because we need each other. We need to help each other.